Ladies and gentlemen, the disadvantage of a relatively advanced age and a long career is that the introduction takes time away from your speaking time. So, Reza, I'm grateful that you did not go further back what I did before. From a scientific perspective, the SDGs and Nexus, their monitoring and implementation can be compared with the difficult task of taming a spotted leopard. You would say all leopards have spots, but this is a very special leopard. Its spots are steadily growing, and its fur is not in a good shape. You have probably realized already that this leopard, to be tamed, is like our planet. It shows the signs of incessant urbanization and generally the less than sustainable use of its multifunctional landscapes. Do we know this animal well enough? Can we wage this task? Yes, we can, and yes, we have to. We observe its movements, monitor its temper and habits, and thus captured many syndromes and complexities. But are we aware of its internal drivers? How much more stress can it absorb, and ultimately, would we be able to reach its senses, make it to jump through the nexus triangles of water, energy, food, water, soils, waste, and more? And would it reach our mandated SDGs? Would it ever be docile enough to respect and live by the rules and practice of what may be called sustainability? This conference gave us the opportunity to take stock of what has been achieved and to reflect upon what is still ahead of us. There are numerous promising modeling applications. Various case studies show interesting results and provide the guidance towards larger scale and long-term implementations. We can be confident to have the tools and technical solutions, but it was also echoed that Nexus science, so far, achieved its results at a laboratory scale rather than in the real world. DNC 2017 demonstrated through many examples that Nexus science is easier to be applied at local scale than at national or even transnational scales. We had good debates over data requirements and availability. Some people claimed that the database were sufficient to rely on for Nexus and NDG monitoring. Personally, I don't share these views, but I have to reflect what has been said. But data accessibility and sharing were still seen as neuralgic issues. This conference also revealed that the Nexus is, at least for the time being, is markedly science-driven. The intriguing complexities of the nexus of water, energy, food, land, soils, waste, climate, and environmental change have been impressively showcased, but frequently there is no feedback yet from its most targeted audience to the knowledge creators. This would be essential, as without the ultimate reality check and wide-scale buy-in and feedback from the governance and administrative communities, the breakthrough could be postponed. Nexus is claimed to be the concept to tackle the SDGs, but Nexus is also a mutual, long-term learning process. This has to involve all stakeholders. Science is on a good track, but no opportunity should be left out to continue convincing people about the feasibility and power of the Nexus. The selection of over 230 official SDG indicators to be monitored and reported at the national level gave us a challenge. But the indicators are also opportunities for science. How can they be measured and interpreted across different scales? Most likely that at different scales like the household, municipal, and regional levels, additional indicators will be needed and used. How can this multi-scale monitoring be synchronized? How and when will scale transitions in this field be possible? How can the multitude of the indicators be assessed, interpreted, and the result of this demanding exercise formulated in concise and concrete policy-relevant messages? No doubt that the Nexus approach, but also the SDGs, imply adaptation. Scientific support and guidance in this process will itself be an adaptive learning by trying exercise. We talk about science, but the science which is needed for successful Nexus approaches is not a single disciplinary homogeneous science. Vocabulary and concepts of the Nexus are likely to be widely unknown in a number of scientific disciplines. DNC is an excellent networking platform, but we need to extend the dialogue in order to develop what is needed, an inter- and transdisciplinary Nexus science. It should involve more and more social scientists, representatives of governance, legal, and political sciences, and other relevant stakeholders. We talk about Nexus and Nexi, and almost automatically constrain ourselves to 3 dimensions. Water, energy, food, or water, soils, and waste are the outstanding examples. Admittedly, there are good reasons not to overload ourselves with even higher order complexities. But adding health to the hitherto frequented Nexus concerns could open the way towards a more explicitly human and society-centered Nexus approach. Spelling out this recommendation in a Museum of Health is most appropriate, I believe. The Nexus or Nexi follow a common philosophy, but manifest themselves through different tools, methods, and solutions. Scientific guidance to find the matching tool for a problem is and will remain an eminent task for the scientific community. Much to be done to facilitate that our consumers, policymakers, professionals, and the public buy in Nexus and seek sustainable cooperation with science. Stakeholder involvement is essential, but should be a well-designed and moderated process. Whom to involve, how, and at what level is an essential research field on its own. The SDGs, as decided by the member states, focus on the national level. Though Nexus considerations' national achievements can be linked across borders, water, but also food and energy security along a great river link the aspirations of the riparian countries. This phenomena occurs at least as many times as the number of large transboundary river basins and aquifers in the world. And if we count them together, it is more than 1,000. Thus, we need to consider the transboundary scale for all-encompassing Nexus considerations. How far globalization, trade links, and more will even require yet higher scales, I leave it to your imagination. Nexus science is new, and those convened here in Dresden came with different pre-Nexus disciplinary backgrounds. We are more or less pioneers of a new emerging science. Do we need and how to educate Nexus-ready professionals? We certainly will need new curricula and more interdisciplinarity within. But as much as we need a new type of professional and scientist, we need also evolution institutionally. The hitherto prevailing fragmented silos in policymaking and governance are counterproductive for Nexus implementation. But do we have the silver bullet model for governance? And even if we knew, the transition to this ideal governance of the new Nexus and sustainability would still be an intellectual and even political challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, these are not only intriguing questions and recollections what I experienced in this conference, but also not so hidden proposals to be considered topics for future Dresden Nexus conferences. Thank you very much.